What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So I found a crazy Reddit thread where there's a bunch of producers exposing their ultra secret production tricks. And I started reading through a couple of them, and I was absolutely amazed at how valuable they were. So I wanted to go ahead and make a video for you guys so you can indulge in this value as well. Now, if any of these tips need a little deeper dive, we're going to head over into Ableton and take a look at exactly how you can do that so you can follow along at home. So if you guys are ready, let's jump right into this. All right, guys, here we go. What's your ultra secret producing tip? I see a lot of producer memes about their snare sounding like shit. I just always sidechain the whole track to a snare, a medium amount, so that it pops out of the mix super cleanly. That's a great tip, actually, and I'll actually do that with my kick sometimes as well. But let's jump right in here. This first one is crazy. It's got over 600 upvotes, and he says, I've never shared this, and it's not something that gets used often, but it's pretty secret and passed down to me from Choco, a Wu-Tang engineer. So, big name there. If you have any horn samples or MIDI horns that need life, record yourself blowing into the mic, maybe 5 seconds, roll off everything below 10 kilohertz, so you just have the airy part of your breath and have this playing underneath the horns part. Sidechain this to the gate so that it opens whenever the horn plays. The end result is subtle but effective. All right, let's check this out. I actually have a flute in this melody, and it does sound like it has some of that mouth breathing already, but we can add on to it and see how it sounds anyways. Let's check this out. So you'd probably want the blowing to start on every single note so that it feels new each time. Cool, we got a couple notes now, and they said to roll off everything below 10 kilohertz. Maybe we'll keep something like that. Maybe we'll play this a little bit before the note comes in too, so that it kind of leads into it, right? Let's hear what that sounds like along with the flute now. And there you go. That's probably the perfect amount. Moving on to the next one. This one is absolutely crazy. Says this might not be fully a secret, but in boom bap, start with a two-step hi-hat pattern, but add a higher and quiet second hi-hat on top of that. Super subtle, only playing a few notes and maybe a triplet, and it will add bounce without you noticing where it's coming from. I've actually tried this out the last couple days, and it's amazing. Let me show you exactly what he means. So this isn't boom bap, but you can use this for any genre where you want to get some more bounce in your hi-hats. Once you have the velocity sitting right and you got your pattern, you can go ahead and figure out which note sounds the best for you. So that's how you can add some extra bounce. Otherwise, you could just take everything and copy it up like this. And this is just going to make our velocity sound fuller and add more high-end presence. Scratchy is saying that I really like to record my main melody, pitch it an octave up and down or both, then put a heavy reverb and pan it all the way to the left or right. And this gives some depth to the track. This is actually really interesting. Let's check this out. Okay, so here's the melody. I actually just recorded this out. This is what it's sounding like by itself. So if we actually copy this down, let's try pitching this up a full octave here, 12 semitones, and we'll grab a reverb. We're gonna make sure the mix is all the way up, and actually let's solo and see how this is sounding. I'll turn it up quite a bit. What we could even do is we could throw an EQ on here, and we could, you know, get rid of all the lows, maybe some of the highs that are really harsh. Cool, and then we can pan this all the way to the left or right like they were saying. So let's go to the right, and we'll go ahead and mix this in with the volume knob. That sounds interesting. I might not pan it fully to the right, like we can put it mostly to the right. I think that sounds pretty cool. Let's jump into this next one. This is a gem, and he says, and there's advice for people that love sampling as much as I do. Don't look for samples exclusively when you make a beat. Subscribe to the channels that upload vintage tracks. Most of them are doing it daily, and just listen. After all, you're saving much more time and you're less likely that you're going to miss some fire samples. This is actually a super fire tip right here, even though it may seem very obvious or like it's just eh. The thing is, when you're making a beat, you're kind of just looking for the first thing that sounds good for you. So when you're searching for samples, once you find something good, you're going to take it and go. But you might miss a million other things that are 5 minutes away from being discovered, for instance. So I've actually done this at time where I'd like take an hour or two and I go sample searching or sample hunting. But they're saying to subscribe to the YouTube channels and just listen to them every day. So that way you're building them up without even having to spend all that time, which I think is really dope as well. Articus is saying Pancake. Hey, we've talked about that before. A free VST on hi-hats. It has a super nice preset called Rhythm. Every time I mix hi-hats, I just throw that on them and turn down the mix. It makes the hats sound like they're randomly being panned either to the left or right and sounds super nice with patterns where multiple hi-hat rolls are present. You gotta try it yourself. You'll like it. Here's Pancake 2. If we go down here, we can actually find the Rhythm preset. And look at, yeah, it just made a crazy little chain here. So now he says to turn down the mix. That sounds amazing. There's a couple other ways I'll show you really quick. If you go into controls right here, you can get some random panning by turning this up as well. And I like something, you know, right around maybe 10 to 15%, maybe a little less, depending on the effect I'm going for. Best tip anyone will ever give you, well, we'll be the judge of that. Sometimes that synth part you can't quite get to pop just right, needs to be written or raised to a different octave or played on a different synth with a different tone and timbre. 100%. You always got to try everything out. Every idea you get, you got to try it out. Here's an example of that. So for this one right here, I matched them so they're playing at the same frequency range. Let's take a listen. Now let's hear it when it's pitched up an octave. You start to hear those higher transients on the bells and it just makes it sound 100 times better. So this one looks promising. Kurt Angus says, Ghost Notes. I've been composing and producing music for the past 10 years, and aside from mastering, EQs, etc., I love writing in MIDI with the thought of each note being played by a person. If you edit the velocity of your MIDIs, you can make your sound like it's being played by a real person. I'm always doing this on drums, strings, brass, adds much more feeling. 100%. I mean, you can use this on everything from your drums to your melodies and everything in between. One thing that's super underrated is using ghost notes on your 808s, for example. Let's check this out. You can see I'm actually going down in velocity on this 808 right here, but let's say like we just turn this velocity all the way down. Instead of this note just playing all the way out, it's going to feel like it stops abruptly here because this velocity goes down. And actually, let's have it double up again and we'll have it come back to full velocity. It works really well when you have notes playing really fast as well. So maybe we go ahead and throw some notes in like this. We have one play fully and we have one come down and maybe we have one come in about here. We'll add this note in here as well. Real Hot Wobbles saying, turn down your hi-hats. Also, one thing I don't see as often, but I've seen multiple dudes do in the studio is use gates to clean up the tails of samples. That's actually super creative. You might have like a sample where there's a long tail from like reverb or something like that, and you can use a gate and set it to a threshold so that it stops playing after a certain volume and it doesn't have that long drawn out tail. Let's check that out. Boom, here we go. We got the gate. So now we have to set the threshold to be where we want. So let's take a listen to this and look at the waveform. You can see it's already starting to clean it up there, but we probably don't want it to be that dramatic. So we'll turn the whole threshold down. And we'll turn this return down as well. There you go. That was a lot of fun. If you guys want to see a part 2, comment part 2 below and we'll go ahead and make another one. There's a ton more stuff on this list that we can go over and I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, please slap that like button if you don't mind. And if you guys want to see some crazy Ableton tricks that I've come across lately, definitely check out this video next.